Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show live. It's the Leeds United Middlesbrough post-match instant match reaction. Leeds United coming out on top, 3-2 winners. I'm Stephen Brown, and with me, as ever, is Jayson Booker here to discuss all things Leeds United.
Wait, where do you start, right?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been put through the ringer with that game. I mean, it was just stressful from pretty much start to finish. Another quick start. Obviously, we had Swansea the other night, a couple of goals pretty quick, and absolute madness again. Kind of set the tone for the day as well. I thought that kind of chaotic start, and even when we got to 3-1, it never felt like we were fully in control of the game. But 3 points for Leeds. Tough game. Middlesbrough, it's one of them we had marked out on the calendar where you go, oh, that'll be tricky, and it proved to be. Your overriding feelings, Jayson, then at the end of the game there?
Relief is the feeling at the end of the game, I'd say. Did I hear right that it was the first time in Leeds United history that we'd seen 3 goals in the opening 5 minutes or something at Ellen Road?
Wow.
In history? Like, it's the first time it's ever happened.
Oh,
yeah, and I mean, it was a totally different game between the two halves. I think in certain phases of the game we looked great. In certain phases of the game we looked awful.
Yeah.
It was a real mixed bag of performances throughout the individuals as well. I was a little bit right from the word go in terms of seeing the same squad. I was just a little bit frustrated to still see no Spence. And I mean, I think Archie were probably up there with one of the shouts for man of the match today. I thought it was excellent, but I still kind of can't quite get my head around why we've got this talent on the bench who's a natural fullback who don't just get slotted back into that position. But that weren't the make or break of the game today. I thought tactically there were a few things that we were doing that were just strange. The centre backs were following some of their players so far, and I mean, I guess it was what they put in place to try and negate what Middlesbrough were good at. But to be honest with you, it were pulling holes in us at times. I do think that Middlesbrough were probably the best team that we've seen at Ellen Road this season, or it was certainly the best performance that we've seen from a team at Ellen Road this season, considering the fact that we've not played Ipswich or Leicester at home. They were certainly better than West Brom and some of the other teams that, maybe in and around us in the playoff kind of push. I think, what Middlesbrough tried to do, certainly going forward, I thought they were really, really good. I thought Howson played excellently as a bit of a deep line playmaker. I thought he ran the game for them. I thought Crooks was a pain for us all game. Truthfully, I thought he bullied Ampadu today. Stop. I can't even deal with it. Honestly, I was giggling my head off for about 5 minutes. I thought Crooks ran rings around Ampadu today. He did. For me, that was Ampadu's worst performance in a Leeds shirt. I thought first half especially was really poor, and then he got caught on the ball in the second half when they were down 10 men and nearly cost us a goal. There were several moments I weren't happy with Ampadu today, but I think a lot of it probably came from tactical instruction, but he just couldn't seem to get close to the players in and around him that were causing us danger in them areas. There were times where Byron were getting caught out of position, and I thought Byron had a good game as well, but they were pulling us around, and the tactical instruction team seemed to be to go man for man. But to kind of sum up your question, it's certainly relief. I think we deserved it over the 90 minutes. Again, we could have scored 4, 5, 6 in that game. If Rutter had his shooting boots on, I didn't think he had a good game today either, by the way. He had moments, flashes of brilliance, but I thought he was really wasteful today, really, really wasteful, shooting from ridiculous angles and positions and skying them over and all the rest of it. But we know that's what he comes with. I thought the chance that he had start of the second half, it wasn't a great effort, but it was a fantastic save. It was a really, really good save. And we can talk about another man on the back of that, because I'm telling you, Illan Meslier wouldn't have saved that. We need to talk about Meslier. We do, because when he's out rushing out to a chance, I believe that he's probably going to come out and save it. When he's going in with his whole body and he's smothering, there were one a bit after.
It happened, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was kind of that happened, didn't it?
Latile got through and he made a good save. But if there's a half chance in and around the box, 10 to 15 yards, and it's just struck. It's certainly anywhere near his near post. I just think it's going in. Like he's, and I've seen this kind of argument back and forward with regards to save percentages and XG and all the rest of it. I'd prefer to go for with a keeper on the eye test, and I just think he doesn't save enough of them chances. It feels like we've just got, if we have too many of them on target, they're gonna score. Like, and for me, he should save that. He should save the chance against Rotherham. And I just don't know. I don't know, but I don't think we can do much better in this division. But going up, I don't know. I don't know what's happened to him since the keeper that we saw Championship season 2 and under Bielsa and Premier League season 1.
I mean, it was kind of, I mean, part of the redemption story. I thought this season, I thought he'd kind of been, I want to say solid, but he's obviously a goalkeeper that can play with the ball at his feet. Farke certainly wants that. We got a glimpse of Darlow, and he certainly wasn't able to offer what Meslier can. But that today, for me, that goal that he conceded, that was. I mean, I couldn't believe it again that he'd been beaten near post, and you know he's on his knees. He's always on his knees, and
it wasn't a great strike, Browney.
No, I look at it and I just go, that's not good. That's not where we need him to be, and it really sets off the tone. And we're it's an uphill battle immediately, and I think that was very concerning. I think that's something he's got to improve with. I'm kind of disappointed that this has happened, really, and the fact that we're seeing one or two mistakes like this happening, if you can call them mistakes or non-saves. But I mean, I thought the defense as a whole there was a shakiness and it was shambolic at times, the defense. And I think what really didn't help, and Kevin, thanks for your comment, mate, this was a big problem for me. The decision making on some of the we just couldn't get a pass right when it came to making the key pass. Time and time again, we lost the ball, and then we were exposed. And then the defense are under pressure then because we've made the wrong decision. They've got oceans of space, but it just felt chaotic today. And I wouldn't have been surprised if Millwall had got the equaliser. Even when they were down to 10 men, I thought it was still, they had that composure and they kind of played it perfectly, really, like kind of suckering us in. And we were so sloppy at times.
I'd be worried if Millwall got an equaliser.
Did I say Millwall?
No, you're absolutely right, though, mate. I mean, they had the biggest chance, didn't they, in the last 20 minutes? I mean, Rodon's block. I mean, you're absolutely spot on with what you're saying. And I think the only real cool head in the back four today was Rodon. I mean, he's just a level above. He's a Premier League centre back and everything, but playing in it. He's exactly what Ben White was to us in the promotion season. That's exactly what he reminds me of. His decision making, his reading of the game, his tenacity, his in the tackle. He's just a fantastic centre back. I think the only thing that maybe stops him getting in at Spurs is his pace. And even that, I think at Championship level, we've seen when he stretches his legs out, he's got a ton of pace. But at Premier League level, it's different. But I mean, just going back to the goal, I think Archie should do better.
Yeah,
I don't think he gets close enough. He gets turned inside far too easily. He lets Latilea come on to his right foot, and then he struck at his near post. And Meslier, he has to save at least 75% of them. Like if one of them goes in every 5 or 6 games, fine, it happens. But every week we're seeing it at the moment. He just doesn't save enough of them, and it is a real concern for me. In them tight games where you need them moments. And sure, he saved us earlier on this season against Leicester. It was a top save. But I just believe that so many of the keepers in the Championship save that. In the first 3 minutes, he's your last line of defence. And
is his distribution? Is his distribution even that good?
I mean, I think he's composed with dealing with it when he walks it out. I quite like what he does with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mind that. And then there's a couple of occasions where he needs to kind of bend it round to Archie or bend it round to the right wing, Dan James or whatever. And he can do that quite nicely as well. When he's not asked to ping it long like we used to want to see from him, He's okay. I don't mind that side of his game now. And he's obviously been instructed to punch and flap crosses. I've noticed that a lot this season, which again, I don't mind. Like, if he's not comfortable catching, some keepers are, some keepers aren't. I'm okay with that. But ultimately, a goalkeeper is there to stop the opposition scoring. And I just feel so often that there's chances that he should save that he just doesn't.
Yeah, no, indeed. Get to your couple of comments as well. Really appreciate that, guys. Also, do like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Skip, important 3 points, but worrying how we failed to close the game out. So many chances missed again. Also, Skip, Ampadu is looking so leggy. Surely give him a break next game for Gruev. Thought this is why we have squad depth. Yeah, I mean, push comes to shove. There's got to be a time where you go, let's give this guy a break. I mean, for me, it's like, it's what is it, 75th minute before we see a substitution. And, maybe you can argue you're not wanting to break the rhythm. They're down to 10 men. But I mean, for me, it's kind of, if you can't bring Gruev on when you're playing against 10 men to give your central midfielder a rest, then when are you going to do it? I mean, surely there has to come to a point where you're going to go, yes, this guy's got to get a game, because he's never going to get going. He's never going to get into the season if he doesn't actually get some minutes. And for me, Ampadu, it has been fantastic. I agree with you. I think he's been one of, if not the signing of the season. But since this international break, he's just not been his normal self. And that mistake in the second half where he lost concentration, lost the ball, it could have been devastating.
So
these sloppy moments, these sloppy moments are creeping into his game where he's losing the ball, not making the right decision. And, you can attribute it to tiredness, a lot of games, that mental concentration you have to have in the middle of the park. There's no doubt at Premier League level you will get absolutely punished by that. That would not be good enough for the Premier League if he was performing like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with Skip. I think it's time for him to get a break. Maybe Jed Spence goes right back. You bring Archie in. Maybe he doesn't see Archie as like for Ampadu. Fair enough, but give Gruev a chance. For me, I don't know, that second half, I wanted to see some more changes sooner, Nonto or something, just mix it up a little bit sooner. I don't necessarily know if that would have swung the game for us in terms of getting that fourth goal or anything like that, but I just feel there's a hesitancy there to make that change. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of them games we've won the game, but it feels like there's more questions than answers today.
It feels like we've been a bit negative, doesn't it, in the way that we're talking, considering the fact that we won the game. And there was a lot to like, and we'll get into that as well. I just think the overbearing feeling of the game is that we saw a lot that we didn't like. The start weren't great, obviously, again, slow, the mistakes, Meslier, Ampadu's performance, there were a couple of other bits in between as well. Oh, Jesus. There was just a few bits that I found particularly worrying.
Yeah,
I do think Middlesbrough are a good side though. When we were having the chat the other day, I thought today's game were away from home for some reason. I got it in my head, and I said that I'd be happy with the point. Obviously, when I realised it was at Ellen Road, I wasn't happy with the point. We need to win the game, and we did win the game. But that being said, is that we knew that they were a good side and they had a lot to offer. I thought they played through the press really well. They play a risky style of football themselves. It could have cost them a few goals, 2 or 3 in the first half. We latched onto sloppy passes. The penalty, I think, came from that as well. It's they certainly run a risk in the way that they play. Very similar to what we did under Bielsa. To be fair, that's what it kind of reminded me of, without as much quality maybe throughout the squad. But in terms of talking some positives for a minute, I thought the wing going forward down the wings, I thought we terrorised them. Absolutely terrorised them. Somerville and James, Archie in the first half especially was fantastic.
Yeah.
Byram and me. I don't know how we're scoring from 2 headers to his wingers who are 5'5" each. I have no idea how Dan James is scoring that header. He's up against 2 massive defenders.
The timing, isn't it? The timing of his jump is perfect, isn't it?
But I thought Dan James absolutely terrorised their left back in the first half. Bangura. I mean, he was getting so frustrated with Archie Gray when he had a bit of a set to do with Archie. And Somerville, I mean, ended up getting Deke Steele sent off, their fullback. It's just an absolute joy to watch. And again, if we'd have just been a little bit more clinical today, we do. All this being said, we win the game 5-6-7. It literally could have been that level of finishing.
Yeah, I mean, as you alluded to earlier, Rutter is quality, but it can be so frustrating at times with his shooting. Only if he had a shot like Pablo. Yeah, I mean, I was pulling my hair out with Rutter's shooting today. Not to switch straight back to a negative after our little positive break, but just it was just I couldn't believe how wild his shooting is. Sometimes I'm like, it's like you said before. I mean, he's got the technique in him to play these beautiful through balls and passes and the vision and everything. The technique's there, but I mean, it's like the chance where he's going one-on-one and his head's down and there's just zero composure compared to like what you see with Perot generally when he's finishing those. If he can add that to his game, and that's where he clearly needs to develop. But I agree with you. I thought generally he was pretty off it today. I thought it was one of his lower performances today. I thought it wasn't the passing, the vision, the range wasn't quite there today like it has been.
Wrong decision making and stuff
like that.
Decision
making, but the decision making generally, I mean, it really frustrated me. Some of it. Hang on, mate.
We've got guests here. We've got different scenarios, different backgrounds here for Paul Browney. Like he's on dad duty at the moment, but we've got to bring it, live. We're going to bring it raw, aren't we? So
exactly.
I thought Gio today was just probably caught up in the craziness a little bit. He probably was caught up in the craziness a little bit, but if he was able to add what we're talking about to his game, certainly a little bit more composure in the finish, he'd be a Premier League player now. And that's why he's playing Championship football. We have to remember where we're at. Yeah. And all that he does bring us is of such a high level. I'm not bashing him. He didn't have a great game today. Like you say, it was more decision-making and just a couple of bits of execution. I think he's a huge confidence player. I think he gets a goal early today and it's possibly a different game. And he'll end up running rings around him because he still had moments. He had flashes. But that was all over the performance today. Maybe with the exception of Somerville and James. I thought they were pretty consistent all game. Somerville, like I say, all game just terrorising them. Rodon, I thought had a really consistent 95 minutes. But I think everybody else was kind of a little bit guilty of a few moments, like you say, sloppy passing. There were a couple of instances in the midfield. Ampadu and Kamara both gave the ball away needlessly. One other point to make was I thought Pirro had another great game. I think he's another exception to having a bit of an off day. I thought the link-up play was really good. I thought he followed on from midweek really, really well. And, with regards to the penalty, that's how a proper, confident striker who knows how to strike a ball takes a penalty. Yeah, there was no doubt he was scoring for me. I don't know about you, but I felt no panic. I thought, this is 3-1. This is a goal, no problem. It weren't even in my mind that he'd missed that because he just strikes the ball so cleanly and he's composed that he can strike a ball perfectly in front of 36,000 people and it not bother him.
Yeah. So, that's one of them, isn't it? If Bamford's on the pitch and you miss it, it's he puts you up against it, doesn't it, a little bit? Yeah. So I agree with that. I think it's good to see. I mean, how many goals is that now for Pirro as well?
8 each. Him and Somerville.
Yeah, I mean, he's keeping up that rate, isn't he? That 1 in 2 rate. And
he'll be on 2025.
It's got to be, hasn't he? But a bit of pressure because obviously Leicester got a very, very, very late winner against West Brom, which is so frustrating to see after how West Brom have been lately and that happening. And Ipswich got an early lead, so it seemed like a pretty comfortable day for them as well. So obviously this keeps the pressure up, and it was much needed. Do you think the style of play, Leeds' style of play, we kind of touched on this, the kind of, I don't know, predictability of it or something, because I've seen like Ipswich and now you've seen Middlesbrough who have lesser players but are able to kind of inflict these kind of styles of play that they seem so well drilled and well coached, whereas we're kind of relying on maybe individual kind of brilliance sometimes. It's kind of a difficult line to kind of gauge, isn't it? Because you don't want to shackle Somerville, you don't want to shackle Rutter, but I don't know. I feel like against Swansea and Middlesbrough, there's been times where we've lost control of the game, and it's a bit concerning.
It's a tricky one because I think no matter what style you set up with, there's negatives and positives and negatives to every style and tactic that you set up with, and there's also counters to every style and tactic that you kind of put out there. So I think you're going to see moments where we are then either caught out of position or possession, or that there's going to be things that work up against us, whether it's a low block or today where they press us. And I think you just have to try and find that balance as much as possible, because as much as today there was some frustrating moments, the amount of chances that we created against what we're both saying are a good side was phenomenal. Like we should have been really going into halftime. We probably should have had a 3 or 4 goal lead. And then we come out in the second half and it was exactly the same as midweek. We had 3 or 4 chances within the first 10 minutes and didn't take any of them. So I'm a bit like you. I'm stuck in this kind of position where I'm not sure how it gets better without negating some of what's going well. What I will say is I can understand now, watching a Daniel Farke team week in, week out, why it struggles in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I can see it. I can see it.
Well, this is my thing where I have absolutely loved how Farke has dealt with everything since coming to the club, and how quickly he's got us into, a team that's this formidable, really, and the form team in the league. But there's just those little snippets of things where you're watching going, at the next level, I'm not so sure if you're the man, really, as harsh as that seems. But, there's some things where you just like,
we'd get pressed to death by so many teams. And again, it relies, I think, I said this midweek, it relies so much on individual brilliance of some of these players, whether it be Somerville, Rutter, Pirot, James, to make things happen. And don't get me wrong, there's some intricate, nice players in between it. And I think there were a bit of madness in the second half, but I think the last 20 minutes, by 1 or 2 moments, we controlled play really well. We kept possession nicely. We popped the ball about quite a lot. I didn't mind some of that, but there was also a lot of moments where if we'd have played like that in the Premier League, would have been 2 or 3 down. Would have conceded 2 or 3 goals because they would take them chances. We saw that. We saw that in our experience in the Premier League over the previous 3 seasons, didn't we? So,
what about Pascal today? Because for me, he's not back up to the level he was pre-injury. I think obviously we saw the header against Swansea midweek, and it's one of those things where it's the first minute of the game. It's an unbelievable finish. Maybe you go, okay, we've won the game. For me, I felt like there was a kind of vulnerability around Pascal a little bit today. I felt like it was a bit of one of those shaky Pascal performances where it's all a bit last ditch and a bit shaky and lacking a bit of confidence. I mean, what did you think about Pascal today?
I didn't think he had a great game either. I agree with you. I just don't know how much of it came from a tactical problem, because it seemed as if he was instructed to follow his man all the way. I mean, there were a moment in the first half where Pascal was literally on the edge of their box and he'd followed him all the way. And then when it broke and they'd beaten the press, Pascal's 10, 15 yards behind the player running away from him. Morgan Rogers, especially, is particularly quick. He's a good player. He's tricky. And he was causing us problems. But that had to be instructional. Because Rodon did it as well I think in the first half.
Yes, he did. Yeah, there were a bit where you were so far up the pitch, wasn't it? And you just Middlesbrough so good at playing out, they just passed it round us.
So it's tricky, because if again you're asking a player to do an instruction, then they're going to follow it to the best of their ability. But it can sometimes then make them look, especially if it's not something that's comfortable. Pascal's quick enough, but he's not rapid. So then trying to make that pace back, if you've gone all that way, is difficult. But at least they're committing to it. One thing I will say whenever you see a tactical instruction like that try and play it out is if they're going to do it, you need to commit. And they definitely did commit to that today. I think and this is going to sound like I'm bashing it, but I think a lot of our troubles today came from Ampadu not really getting hold of Crooks properly, because he was real key in moving players around and dictating the space in behind. There were a couple of moments where Crooks kind of took the ball on the edge of the box and a couple of intricate plays, and they got through on goal. I really liked their number 9 as well. I thought he played really well. His movement was excellent. I thought the header was a fantastic finish. I think the first goal was an okay strike, but like I said before, it should have been saved. His movement was a problem.
Yeah, something we touched on the other night that you raised as well, predictable substitutions, and we saw that again. It was exactly the same again.
Yeah.
Is it a bit of a problem? Is it just a bit too? I mean, what's going on there? Because it's I don't know. It feels almost like, well, you've got to give Willie some time. You've got to give Nonto some time. So you get him on first. Then you got Pat, who's kind of this established senior figure. So you got to give him time. And it is a bit predictable, isn't it?
It's really, really predictable. It's a little bit like when you're on Football Manager and you look at your team sheet and you see the striker at 6.6 and you think, right, okay, yeah, take him off on 65th minute, and you just do it every game. That's what it feels
it's
like.
It's not true. That's exactly what I do.
You do it every game, and then you have a look at a winger if you 1-1 or whatever. Yeah, take him off. He's at a 6.5, and you take him off. It just feels like that, and you have your predetermined substitutions every game. And I do think managers are more like this than intuitive. I do actually think this is more common than what we maybe had under Bielsa, where things were structural and tactical, and he'd bring a young lad on to fill a role, and he'd fill the role in great. And this is, we've seen how many managers I've seen in my lifetime. I've seen this time and time and time again, but it is particularly frustrating because it feels like it's not with any thought. I mean, I saw the comment a minute ago about the substitutions with a minute to go, and I get the frustration around that. Most of the time, it's just wasting time. Is a substitution at that period of the game, but they were coming on 2 or 3 minutes before that, and they were ready to come on, stripped and whatnot. And I just kind of think, well, why? What's the point? Like, what roles are they gonna fit in, or is it just for fresh legs? I don't know. And the Pat and Nonto subs are just, I mean, I think Gio should have come off, but I would have probably brought a midfielder on then. We're up against 10 men. Just dominate the midfield. Bring Gruev on and just fill that role instead of bringing Pat on. It just didn't make sense to me. So I agree with you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember listening to Not the Top 20 podcast, and they were doing their pre-season preview. And it wasn't a dig at Farke, but it was like saying, this is not an innovative coach. This is not a guy who's breaking boundaries as a coach. You're more looking at like a Michael Carrick, who's actually kind of exploring those kind of possibilities. But what you get from Farke is a kind of experience, it's solid, that kind of thing, and that we should do well. I mean, they predicted us to actually go up top of the league, partly because of that, and partly because of the outstanding quality we've got in the team. But yeah, I do worry about that next level potentially. I mean, probably shouldn't bother because we might not even get there, but you do wonder. I mean, it fascinates me to think what would a Kieran McKenna do, what would a Carrick do with a squad like Leeds in terms of what would be deployed there tactically. But like we say, you've got to give the super creative talents enough room as well. But yeah, I don't know. I think it sounds harsh because they're doing a cracking job and with a form team, but it's.
I think the thing is, right? Like at the end of the day, you have to form your path, don't you, to get these opportunities. And Daniel Farke has done that, and he deserves a top job in the Championship. You could argue that he probably deserves another crack at a lower Premier League club, given the resources that he had at Norwich. That would be his argument. Didn't do particularly bad at Mönchengladbach either. So I think he's earned this position, and I think the likes of a Kieran McKenna, especially, it'd be a huge risk. And we're seeing now that it's not as much of a risk, but he only goes on to prove that more and more as time goes on. Michael Carrick did all right last season, and he obviously plays a style of football that transmits to what we see on the pitch today. But there were only a couple of months ago that he'd lost 7 on the bounce and were bottom of Championship. So I personally would prefer the reassurance of a Farke over one of these with the position that we're in currently. And play, managers like McKenna and Carrick will get their opportunities in the Premier League when they've probably done just a little bit more at this level. Daniel Farke's won this division twice recently, not just, not 10 years ago. He's fairly recently. So I would still rather have that. But there is some nuances that come with Daniel Farke that do appear to be quite frustrating at times. I mean, this rigid 11 thing, I think, again, has got pros and cons. I personally think we've got the ability on the bench to be able to make these players fight a bit harder for the starting spot. And you know, we've got quality on the bench that really should be playing. You know, if Archie's earned a spot within the team, play him in midfield, play him in his position now that Jed Spence is fully fit and ready to go again. He's the best fullback in the division. So why would we have him sat on the bench for 90 minutes? I mean, to not see him tonight, it just blows my mind. I don't understand that. Why is he not getting 30 minutes? You know what I mean? So I feel like we need to stop being as negative as we are. We've 1-3-2, and I'm really happy with it. It feels like I'm moaning a lot.
Although, yeah, here we go. CB, he'll help us out. Evening, lads. Nice 3 points, but very nervy. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the thing. You know, it feels silly. You know, if you'd have told me, you know, 4 hours ago we're going to beat Middlesbrough 3-2, I'd have been loving it. I'm happy with that. Great stuff. Move on to the next game. And I think it is that pressure of, you know, we're trying to close this gap at the top as well, which doesn't help. But yeah, as Rennie says here, very disappointed not to see Spence today. I mean, the thing with the team though, with the substitution options you've got on that bench, I mean, I guess what I'd like to see is maybe just mix it up tactically a little bit more, or just a bit more flexibility, or, you know, you have 2 strikers at the top, or, you know, you stick an extra man in midfield, like you say, or just do a little bit more with those options rather than like for like, and it not really impacting anything. But I mean, look, it's start of December. We're now up to 19 games, I think, in the Championship now. We're 7 points off second, 8 points off the top of the table. We are, you know, the form team of the division. We're in a position that I think we've got to be happy with. I think if you'd have probably offered this at the start, I think I probably would have taken it. But yeah, in terms of going forward, what would you like to see more of now, Jason, building on these kind of these current games?
I would just like to see a little bit more control at times.
Yeah,
a little bit basketball-y at times. And you know, we've said this now for what seems like forever. But we just need a little bit more of a clinical edge. Almost need a couple of less chances, but score more of what we get. It feels like we've got so many frantic chances. It almost feels like because we're spoiled for chances, you know what? It doesn't matter if we miss this one, we're going to get another one. And it's frustrating because at times it costs you games. It cost us against Rotherham. It's cost us several times this season. And again, it could have cost us today. For one Joe Rodon block, we draw 3-3 today, and we sat here thinking, how have we not won that game? That's the truth of the matter, because we've missed so many chances.
Yeah, I mean, there is a fantastic point here, and this is a really big positive. Thanks for your comment, Arthur. Like our reaction after going 1-0 down in the last 2 games, quick goals come back, and that is absolutely that's spot on. You know, I mean, you don't want to be going 1-0 down anyway, but that instant reaction and clawing back into the games, that's great to see.
What I will say to that, though, a bit of a caveat is they've both been at home. If that had have been away, would it have been a different situation in kettle of fish? You have to be careful not to start too often like that. I know it happened against Ipswich and we came back and we turned that one around, but that's not going to happen all the time. Southampton away, I think of that straight away. We were slow off the mark again there, and that day we could not bring ourselves back into the game in any sort of capacity. So I hear you. It's absolutely right. I mean, the attacking intent of the team is so electric that I always think we're going to score and create chances. I just wish we'd take a couple more of them. I mean, we could make so many of these games so much easier. Sorry, I can't stop laughing.
Have you just seen
I can't stop laughing at the M&M bars. When I saw him coming on, because the first camera angle was from behind him, I thought he'd shaved it off. I thought it was bald.
I thought that. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is he doing this for like a cause or something? And then when I actually saw it, I was like, okay. I mean, I almost bet it's something to do with kind of like I'm having a rebuild,
refresh.
Like trying to change the kind of feeling around, maybe getting people talking about something else other than him scoring, or maybe it is or not scoring, should I say, or maybe it is a bet that he made with somebody that he were going to score before December and he hasn't. So I don't know.
No, exactly. We'll wait and see. I'm just loving these. Rennie, his hair was man of the match. It will stay with me forever. Yeah, Arthur Bamford look younger. Yeah, it's it was a funny one, wasn't it? That I did wonder who the hell that was, because I think your radio stream was a little bit quicker than mine, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when you mentioned Bamford, I was like, what? And then I saw it, I was like, oh wow, that's Bamford. Blimey. Wow.
Yeah, new signing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you watch along, please do smash a like on the video, get your comments in as well. Daniel Farke, some post-match comments coming in now. I expected a tough game for us. I couldn't be happier. It's the third game in 8 days against a really good side. I judge them as one of the main competitors for a top 6 position. I mean, a quick word on Middlesbrough and their quality. I mean, obviously they had a horrendous start. They lost a couple of key players over the summer. But I've got to say, the way they were able to play out of defence at times, I thought they were so composed in a bit of a bare pit of a ground as well, and we just struggled to press them, didn't we? Sometimes you've just got to hold your hands up and say they showed a bit of quality there.
Like I said earlier, it definitely ran its risk, and they gave the ball away in some dangerous positions at time. But for me, they were head and shoulders the best team we've seen at Ellen Road this season. In my opinion, I think if they had a better centre back alongside Van der Berg, they would be a serious side. Paddy McNair's okay, but he's not a top level Championship centre back. They've got a couple of gaps within the team, but I think there especially is where they struggle. And then they brought on Clark, who, bless him, 5 seconds into coming on after a year out, he has that situation put upon him. But the fullbacks, especially going forward, they were very good. The Lad Jones on the right hand side, I think he then filled in at right back when Dick Steele got sent off. Quality player. Crooks, I thought, was really good. The striker was really good. They'll be up there. I said that they would struggle this season, didn't I? At the beginning of the season, I was kind of like, oh, I told you so. Yeah. But now that I've seen them again this season, I would guess that they would be within the top 6 come the end of the season. I think they've got, depends on injuries and the squad depth and whatnot, but they're a serious side. I think fair play to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some more comments from Farke. He felt Leeds controlled the game much better in the second half. The big error, aside from not killing it, was allowing the counter when Boro hit the post. It's a priceless 3 points against a good opponent. In terms of how desperate we were to win the game, it was top class. But we had too many unnecessary losses of the ball. When you give possession away that easily, that's why it was a bit wild. But every football fan must have enjoyed this game. Yeah, Pat, unless you're a Leeds fan, obviously.
It was where we turned over the possession, Brownie, that was the problem. If you're trying to make a difficult pass on the edge of the opponent's box, that's fine, because you only score goals sometimes with them intricate passes. But we were being sloppy with it at halfway or just inside our own half. And that's what, if you think about the Rotherham goal, that's where that started from, losing the ball on halfway. So it's when and where you decide to make them risky decisions. I think sometimes we're almost a little bit complacent between them. I think we have a little bit of inexperience at times in that it's a young side, and they are almost feel like they are so far ahead of some of these teams that they're playing against, and then they'll switch off for a second and they'll get caught out. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but that's my how it makes me feel at times.
Yeah, I said it when I watched it today. I was like, keep the concentration levels up, because we've seen it where our quality, we do as individual players look so far above most opponents we play, and that switch off moment is just deadly for us, absolutely deadly. Actually not this one, but CB's point here, they were dirty though, some bad tackles. Yeah, it was like that, some terrible tackles. One of Daniel James got some right punishment out there, and I couldn't believe when Gio got the yellow card.
I know.
I just couldn't believe that. I was fuming when that happened.
The second yellow for the fullback could have been a straight red.
Yeah.
It were a pretty bad tackle. He really flew in on him. So yeah, I agree with that. Just coming back to the previous point though, if you take Byram out of this starting 11, this squad is so young. Like people think of the likes of Rodon, Ampadu, maybe even Dan James, Pirro as being like more experienced. They're like 22, 23, 24, all of them. I think Ampadu's 22. I think James is 24, 25. Pirro's 23. Like, they're not experienced players. So the fact that they're being able to even, display what we're seeing week in, week out, and you can see Byram's experience. I thought he was mostly brilliant again today. There was a tackle that he made late on into the second half. Oh,
I thought he
beautiful.
was going to set up another chance again. It was almost like a carbon copy, wasn't it? It was like a late sliding one. And again, I mean, he's been, I mean, if you're talking about free transfers, I think Farke said he's probably the greatest free transfer in Leeds United's history, and I'm struggling to think of any better. I mean, that's one of those where obviously fullbacks caused a lot of consternation this season. You're thinking, Christ, what we're going to do left back? I mean, to have that guy come in, I don't know what we would have done without Byram this season. I mean, if we weren't actively pursuing a left back, or we didn't want to pull the trigger and we kind of, betting on Junior Firpo being fit and getting some game time, I mean, we'd have been totally screwed on that side. I'm not sure what we would have done without Byram.
Ended up Shackler.
Yeah, we would. We absolutely would. Another comment from Farke said he was pleased and angry at halftime. I could see why sometimes we were driven by our emotion. We played with too many transition moments, but it's also a side of my team that I love, rather than playing football with sleeping pills. So I mean,
what he's saying is exactly what we've been talking about. Like, at least he's seeing and acknowledging it. And like I said earlier, every tactic and style has its negatives and its counters. As much as we love Bielsa's football, that had its problems as well. So especially as you went up in terms of the quality that you were facing. So I've not got a problem with that. And again, if you can get the players to commit to the style, then normally you're gonna, if you've got the quality within it, you're gonna be successful. I would just like to see us sharpen up in one or two areas, and being more clinical would be the most key of that. And again, comes back to the point that we made the other day about making sure that Piro's the man that is getting most of these chances. Because again, today he has a wild one from about 20 yards out after about 2 minutes. I think it was first chance at game, about a minute in. And then apart from the penalty, I don't think he has another chance. And I see that as a little bit of an issue.
It is, it absolutely is. It is, because he, as we've talked before, he's our best finisher. And it's frustrating because, you've got Rutter hitting them 5 miles, above the bar every opportunity. And James's famous left foot shot, although he scored with his left foot the other day. But generally speaking, those outside the box ones, that feels to me like a tactical thing where it's just, come on, there's got to be a way we can unlock that somehow.
I thought Dan James was going to score before he scored. I think it was a nice little finish, but the defender obviously got back on the line. But he then goes and scores later. I love Dan James. Go on, Dan James. Dan James fan club.
He's proven a lot of people wrong, hasn't he, this season? It's good to go. Michael Carrick thinks that they've let one slip today a little bit. I mean, if I was, looking at it from their point of view, I would have been saying we were worthy for a point, possibly. Just the fact that you come into one of the hardest teams in the league and you've played pretty well. You had 10 men for a period of time. So I kind of understand where he's coming from there, to be fair to him.
Yeah, I think we deserve to win the game, but I can totally understand if I were in Michael Carrick's shoes why I would be feeling that way, especially to concede the 2 goals straight on the back of the opening goal of the game, and to both be headers for Dan James and Somerville. Like, if Leeds score goals against you, that crazy build up and some good finishes or whatever, fine. But to concede them 2 goals in that manner must absolutely infuriate Michael Carrick. And I think that the penalty was what it was. But they had some chances, they created some chances themselves. But again, other than the Meslier save in the first half, did Meslier have a save to make?
No,
I don't think he did.
No. It's disappointing, isn't it, though, to concede when that's your only shot that you've really faced.
Yeah. There's nothing they could do about the header. I'll say that. Like, Byram should win the header. He doesn't. Sometimes you just have to say as well, the attacker's got there. He's made a good run. He's planted a good header. And sometimes you just have to accept that a goal's a goal. The first goal, obviously, I've made my point. I don't want to go back in that again. Like, I've made my point with that. I think it could be better. So, yeah, definitely from Carrick's point of view, I think he'll feel a little bit upset today.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of kind of, we're at 19 games now, Jayson. We know what the team's about. This was kind of the month we were looking at going, we know where we kind of stand with everything. How are you feeling about going into kind of 2024 and the rest of the season? I mean, I feel like it's not going to be easy, is it? It's not going to be stress-free. It's going to be typical hard grind, isn't it, really?
I do think we're the best team in the league, though. And I think that's why we're probably still only in 3rd or 4th gear. Yeah, I still think there's so much that we can be better on, but I do think we're the best team in the league. We're seeing the form table don't lie. We're seeing that we're able to beat the best teams in the division. The teams that are lower down in the division are probably causing us more of an issue than the teams in and around us, because I think they give us openings that the teams lower down the division don't. I think if we can find a bit more of a clinical edge, get Pirro involved in them final moments of the build-up more often, I think you'll see these games like today 5-6, because again, as good as Middlesbrough were, we honestly could have had 4-5-6 today. Yeah. Easy. If we'd have just had a bit more of a shooting boots on. I'm really happy with it. If we'd have not had the start of the season that we'd had, if we'd have had this team now fully up and running, I'm absolutely convinced that we'd be in the top 2.
Yeah.
We'd be right. Yeah. We'd easily be good for another 6, 7, 8 points. Easy. Yeah. If you have a look at some of these games this season, Birmingham, West Brom at home, Sheffield Wednesday at home, there's so many where you could pick through and just say, yeah, we'd have taken more out of that. Not Southampton away as an example. That's fair enough. We deserve to lose that game, but overall there was so much available to us. And Daniel Farke said that we'd be where we are. He called this exactly. So I'm optimistic going into the Christmas period and then into the new year. I definitely do want to see us dip in. I would love us to see somebody in on loan up front. I would love to see another option up there. I would love to see a starting first choice left back come in, whether that be on loan or we go out and sign somebody. And I'd love to see an out 10. It might mean that we have to move somebody on to make room for that, because the squad is fairly inflated anyway, especially if there's no injuries, etc. And if that's Nonto back to Italy for 25-30 million, I'd be happy with that personally. I know that not everybody would be happy with that. I understand what he brings off the bench. I understand the quality that he brings. But I just think at the moment you've got an asset that's sat on the bench that's not going to keep that value while being utilised in the way that he is. So if we can get that kind of money for him now and replace him with a specialised 10, because I'd say that as being the replacement because the others can interchange, I'd be delighted with that.
Yeah. I think Skip mentioned it on the video in midweek that still feels like there's something just missing to get us into that top gear, and it could be an out number 10. And obviously we spoke at length the other day about how that would impact the rest of the team. But yeah, there's a couple of bits you can do in the January transfer window, I think, that would just take us to another level, hopefully. And it's just if there's going to be that appetite to do it. And it's fascinating because normally we're at the other end of the spectrum where we've got hardly any players in the squad and we're all the fans are crying out for signings, but we're kind of at a big risk now for being completely overloaded at the squad, especially with, your Gellarts and Creswells and these players that can't even make the first Ayling. I mean,
they're going to have to move on, mate.
Right back. Yeah.
So some of them are going to have to move on. Cresswell is probably going to have to go out on loan, I would say, to a bottom end championship team, in the nicest possible way. Send him to town, send him to Sheffield Wednesday for the rest of the season, get him some games in towards, in a hostile environment, local, so he can still be checking in with the club and stuff like that. I'd say Gellart, I'd probably sell him. I think his time's done at Leeds, unfortunately. I think Ayling, keep him around. That's fine. He can make up the bench and sit there, because I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Same for Coops. I've not got a problem with them staying until the end of the season, as long as they're getting minimal game time. Shaq can stay. Firpo, we just need to pay 20%, pay 80% of his wages, get a club to pay 20% of his wages out in Spain. I'm being deadly serious. Send him back to Spain. Let him sit on their treatment table, because he's not reliable and he's not good enough, and go and sign a left back that can be our first choice and allow Byram to come in to some games over there. And not that Byram doesn't deserve to play, because he absolutely does, but he can be an option for left back, he can be an option for right back. Archie can then go back into midfield and play there, and Spence can play right back. That's would be, in my opinion, a perfect January. We don't need to sign too many. 2, 3 max, absolute maximum. But there does need to be some recycle of some of the fringe players too.
Yeah, it's got to be churn, hasn't it? And it certainly feels like. I mean, that's one of the things. Credit to Farke. I think he's managed that whole thing brilliant, really, and he's made the necessary changes. So definitely. What was I going to? Oh, here we go. What about this? This guy as a number 10. What about Aronson? Cancel his loan, bring him back, drop him in the number 10. Problem solved, is it?
Nah, I don't even think Brendan's a number 10 either. You know, we can all have his opinions on what happened last season and the individuals within it. I think there is something in Brendan, but it has to be in a particular type of squad. And I don't think in the Championship would be right for him. I don't think any of them should come back, if I'm honest. More from the mentality and the feeling around it that'd be the biggest problem. Not for me. I think we need a specialised number 10 in there. There's plenty. I mean, for me, a dead easy one would be Elias Share from QPR. You know, they're dying at the bottom of the league. Yeah, they've turned the corner a little bit under Fuentes, the new manager. But for me, just go on. We could have had him in the summer for 5 million from what we hear. It's just a no-brainer. Just go get him. He's a specialist.
Why wouldn't they do it?
I don't know. I honestly don't.
Pirro thing now. The fact that Pirro's at number 10.
I think they had the opportunity to sign Shea, but he was second choice to
Amrani, or was it Amrani?
Amiri. It was second choice to Amiri, and that's why we didn't go through with it. That's what I think. I could be completely wrong, but the profile's exactly the same. Just Amiri's better. So just go make that deal happen for me.
Yeah, get it done. Busy week. Not necessarily this week, but starting from next week against Blackburn. We've got Blackburn, Sunderland, and then Coventry, all within the space of 6-7 days. So it's going to be interesting again. Blackburn away, tricky one. You know, they've lost.
They've got to lose to Sheffield Wednesday today.
I know. Is that not the type of game where I know they're a better team than Stoke, but that kind of vibe of, you know, it's a game we should really put to bed, but it's away from home, and you know, are we going to be at it? I mean, it's one of them where it's them type of games where you just got to do it, haven't you? You can't always just be against the big boys.
I mean, we're not going to win every week. We have to understand the fact that some weeks we're going to turn up and not play particularly well, but we do need to try and win more of them games where we don't play well. You know, that is the true sign of a champion of any division. You turn up, you win 1-0, you didn't really deserve it, or you didn't play particularly well, but you get over the line. And not enough this season we've done that. Stoke away, Hull away, you know, Sheffield Wednesday at home. There's too many games where we've not taken 3 points when we probably should have done. So whether we play well or not, it'd be nice to see us go to a team that clearly can be beaten by teams lower in the division. But Blackburn have got aspirations of their own. I think Blackburn at their place will probably come out and give us opportunities. So I would fancy us to go and win that game.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed. Any other business, Jason, before we want to sign off? We've covered Bamford's hair, obviously the important thing.
We're doing the most important thing from today's game.
Have a look. There it is.
I feel sorry for him, if I'm honest. I feel a little bit sorry for him, and I probably shouldn't, because at the end of the day, as a professional footballer, paid a lot of money to score goals and play well for Leeds United. I just feel like he's probably just lost his way. He needs a move, doesn't he? He needs to move on. But any other business, just relieved to get out of there with another 3 points on the board with the form team in the division. You know, let's just keep it going. Every game we take another step. Leicester got over the line today, but again, they're desperately, you know, scoring a 96-minute winner to win that game. They're still not in great form. I feel like they're there for us, mate. I do. I'm going to keep on saying it. I feel like we can keep playing the way that we are and picking up the points that we are. I feel confident. I just hope to see a little bit more rotation now. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned that 4 days after the previous game, which came on the back of an international tournament, that we're still not seeing any rotation. I just don't fully understand it. Respect that Middlesbrough are top opponent. Understand that you want to play your best 11, but it comes with a balance. And I do believe that we've got options that could have seen that be a little bit easier today, considering, even though they were great, considering the opportunities they gave us. I feel like the performance of Ampadu, as an example, was maybe just a bit like somebody saying there, pure stubbornness from Farke to stick to that rigidity of that 11. But look, we can't be unhappy. Things are going well.
No, absolutely. We're winning games, and it's a far cry from last year, isn't it? This time last year, Jason, where
it's nice to win games, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah, and if we're still moaning when we're winning games, it can't be all bad, certainly. Well, thanks everyone for watching today's stream. We'll be back hopefully later this week, and then of course for some post-match reaction videos as well. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. If not. Thought my boy was going to come in picture.
Hey, I think you've done all right, mate. I think you've done okay.
Right. Just say hello. Do you want to come say hello?
Hello.
Oh, you can see the corner of his head there. He's looking at hair. You're not on camera. We can't see you there, mate. Oh, he's coming in now. Hang on. What do you think of how Leeds did today?
Like a good job.
Any more Yorkshire, that lad?
There you go. I better get your tea ready, Anna, now. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll be back again. Jason, thank you very much. I've been Stephen Brown, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Thank you.